Hey everyone. Tonight we're going to live through an entire day in the sandals of a Roman farmer. Picture this: the smell of wet hay, the sound of chickens arguing in the dark, and the scratch of straw poking your back before the sun has even decided to show up. You might think modern life is stressful, but back then just surviving a Tuesday was an achievement. You're about to step into a world where breakfast is basically punishment, hygiene is optional, and sandals are more philosophy than footwear. A lot of people romanticize ancient Rome, but after this, you might not, and frankly, you might not survive this day at all. Emotionally, at least. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. Also, leave a comment with your location and what time it is where you're watching this. I'm always curious who's out there in the middle of the night. Now, turn down the lights. Maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise. And let's get started on tonight's journey together. You are already awake when the rooster starts screaming. Because, of course, he is early. Again. His name is Brutus, named by your son as a joke, but the irony fades every time he announces dawn like a feathered dictator. You squint at the sky still black. Great. You sit up on the straw mattress and immediately regret it. Something sharp jabs your thigh. Probably a rock. Or a small god punishing you for not making an offering yesterday. Historians still debate whether Roman households regularly swept their bedrooms, but judging from your own floor, the answer is a resounding nope. The air is cold enough to make you hiss when your bare feet touch the packed dirt floor. You shuffle toward the door, pushing aside a heavy curtain instead of a door because, fun fact, hinges are expensive, and you're not made of sestertii. Outside, the world is still wrapped in a damp darkness. The animals are restless. A goat bleats indignantly, either at you or Brutus. You grab your tunic from the peg on the wall. It's stiff with yesterday's sweat and smells like a mix of sun-baked wool and faint despair. But it's yours. You adjust your belt, the same one you've used for years, and step out into the chilly pre-dawn. The ground is wet with dew, your sandals squish. Now begins your daily tradition, walking a few dozen paces to check the sky. Clouds hang low like dirty laundry. You sigh. Looks like another day of humidity and vague dread. In the distance, the neighbor's dog howls at nothing in particular. The Romans believed in omens, everything from bird direction to goat sneezes. And while you'd like to pretend you're above that, the goosebumps down your spine say otherwise. You whisper a quiet prayer to Ceres, goddess of grain. Just in case. Back in the kitchen corner of your single-room house, your wife is already stirring something in a pot. It smells like barley mush. Again, she doesn't look at you. Neither of you is awake enough for conversation. She ladles out a portion onto a wooden dish and slides it toward you without breaking eye contact with the fire. Romance is alive and well. You sit on a stool and scoop up the gruel. It's lukewarm, somehow both watery and sticky. It tastes like barley, with hints of sadness. Occasionally a crunch surprises you. Hopefully a seed, possibly a rock. Brutus crows again. You look at him and nod. He's technically the most punctual member of your household. Your son, Marcus, groans from the corner, still curled in his blanket like a poorly rolled scroll. You gently kick the base of his foot. Time to rise, you mutter. He grumbles something about wanting to be a soldier. You remind him soldiers also wake before dawn, except with swords, not goats. He pulls the blanket tighter. You head outside again, wooden tools clanking as you shoulder them. A hoe, a small sickle, a clay water jug with a crack along the rim. These are your coworkers. They don't complain, but they also don't improve. Outside, the sky has started to fade from black to dark blue. You pass the chicken coop, giving Brutus a look. He fluffs his feathers smugly. Across the path, old Gaius is already shuffling toward his field. You exchange grunts. The Roman morning. Hello. You reach the edge of your plot. It's small, humble, and slightly tilted due to that earthquake 5 years ago. Still usable. The rows are messy, but there's promise in them if the rain shows up. If the pests don't, if the gods are feeling merciful, you dig your hoe into the earth. The soil is reluctant, hard from yesterday's sun, and your back is already protesting. You adjust your grip. The day has barely begun. As you dig, you think about the rumors in town, about a new aqueduct being built somewhere near Antium. Or was it Ostia? It doesn't matter. That kind of progress doesn't reach farmers like you, not unless it floods your field by accident. Historians still debate whether small farmers benefited from Rome's engineering wonders. You've formed your own opinion, especially after last year's latrine overflow. The sun finally breaks over the horizon. A soft glow spills across the land. It catches on dew, makes your hoe shine for a brief, beautiful second. Then it blinds you and starts to heat the air like a slow roasting amphora. You pause to stretch, your knees pop, your hip makes a sound like an old door hinge. You consider pretending to be injured just for a few minutes of lying down, but you remember that lying down usually just leads to your son jumping on you with urgent goat-related updates. And so you keep digging. Somewhere in the distance, a flute plays, probably a shepherd, or someone trying to avoid actual work. Your stomach grumbles again. That barley mush is long gone. You reach into your pouch for a fig. It's squashed and warm. You eat it anyway. The day stretches before you like an endless scroll, and you've only just started. Your hands are already blistering, and the sun hasn't even made it over the nearest olive tree. You tell yourself it's just the chill in the air that makes the hoe handle feel like a weaponized icicle, but no. It splinters. Real, actual splinters. One digs under your thumbnail as you swing downward into the stubborn dirt. You hiss, but quietly. The neighbors already think you're dramatic, ever since that time you claimed to see a ghost in your water jug. The morning chill lingers, but not in a pleasant way. It sticks to your bones, numbing your toes inside your half-disintegrated sandals. They're more whole than leather now. Still, they beat going barefoot barely. One of them squeaks when you step, but you've grown used to the sound. It's part of your morning ensemble. Along with cracked lips and a neck that won't turn fully to the left, you glance toward the path. No one's around, not even Gaius. Maybe he passed out in the cabbage patch again. You should be concerned. But also, it's none of your business. You shift your grip on the hoe and dig in again. Eventually, your wife steps out, arms folded, watching you from the threshold. She's holding a bowl. You know what's in it even before you ask. Gruel, she says flatly. Again you reply. Equally flat. She shrugs. It's warm. You trudge over, hands already caked with soil and regret. She sets the bowl down on a rock, then disappears inside. The bowl steams faintly in the air. This time it's a little thicker barley and maybe a whisper of bean. You sit beside it, letting your limbs rest. The rock is hard, but less judgmental than your wife's gaze. You scoop the mush with your fingers. It's not as bad as it was at dawn, which is to say it's edible, with the right mindset. You chew slowly, staring at the field. Birds flit overhead. One drops something, hopefully a leaf. Roman breakfasts, in case you're wondering, were famously humble. Frugality is a virtue, says every Roman philosopher who never had to eat this much barley. Historians still debate whether farmers truly embraced such simplicity, or were just too poor to question it. Your son appears behind you. Marcus, age 12, still skinny, still dreaming of glory and armor and stabbing things with swords. Right now, he's barefoot and yawning. Do I have to eat again, he asks, as if he'll suddenly say, no, today is poetry and napping. Yes, you say. Start with the leeks. He groans and shuffles off. You take another bite of barley and try not to feel envious. At least he still has young knees. A bee buzzes near your face. You swat lazily. The bee wins. Back to work. You push yourself upright and return to the field. The soil is uncooperative again. It knows you're tired. It can smell your weakness. But you keep going, row after row, scraping and chopping and muttering to yourself about how you should have married into a pottery family. Halfway through a furrow, you trip on a root. Not fall flat on your face trip, just a sudden jolt that nearly cost you your balance and dignity. You glare at the root. It's smug. You briefly consider digging it out just to send a message, but decide your back isn't up for that level of vengeance yet. A donkey brays from somewhere nearby. Probably Sextus's. That animal sounds like it's mid-exorcism. It's oddly comforting. You pause, leaning on your hoe, and look over the land. The morning light has shifted. The sun is now high enough to sting your eyes. A golden burn wraps everything in a haze. It's almost beautiful if you ignore the smell of compost and wet goat. The tools begin to feel heavier. Your arms are arguing with your spine. You wipe your forehead on your sleeve and immediately regret it. Sweat, dust, and last week's wine stain greet you. Your stomach lurches. You really shouldn't have had a second helping of gruel. You glance toward the trees again. There's movement, someone coming down the path. A neighbor? A merchant? No. It's Lucius. Of course, Lucius the talker. Lucius the lentil breath philosopher. He's smiling like it's his full-time job. And he's holding something wrapped in cloth. Morning, he shouts, far too loudly for this hour. You grunt. Brought you something, he adds, reaching into his bundle. You pray it's a fresh water jug. Or bread. Or silence. It's cheese, kind of. He peels back the cloth to reveal a chunk of hard, yellowish curd. Goat, he says proudly. It smells assertive. You accept it with a nod. Still warm, you note. Fresh this morning, he grins. From Flavia's herd. You weren't going to ask, but now you can't stop picturing Flavia milking that suspiciously angry goat near the forum. You break off a piece, pop it into your mouth, and chew. It's chewy, like bark-level chewy, but it tastes sharp and strong, almost like it's trying to be butter and vinegar at the same time. Lucius sits on a tree stump, crosses his legs, and launches into his usual mid-morning speech about the state of the Republic. He's very concerned about grain prices, even though neither of you has seen a senator in person. Ever. You nod along, inserting the occasional or must be the magistrate's while focusing more on your chewing than his words. Suddenly, you feel something cold and wet on your ankle. You jump. It's the dog. Flavia's mutt. Patchy fur, one ear, and a tongue like sandpaper. Lucius laughs. He likes you. Tell him to like me less. You toss the dog a bit of the cheese? He sniffs it, then decides against it. Smart dog. You and Lucius sit there, two peas in a very tired pod, watching the field sway under the lazy breeze. A flock of starlings erupts from the far end, startled by something unseen. It's peaceful for a moment, just long enough for you to think maybe this isn't so bad. Then Lucius says, Have I told you about my cousin's hemorrhoids? And just like that, the moment is over. You wave Lucius off with a vague promise to help him dig out a fence post sometime next week, which in Roman farmer terms means maybe never. He doesn't take the hint, of course, but eventually his wife yells for him from across the valley and he shuffles off. Still talking about grain tariffs to no one in particular. You return to your field and your hoe, neither of which has improved in your absence. The soil, at least, has warmed up. That's the one kindness the sun gives you today before it begins its real work, turning your back into roasted goat. You adjust your tunic, now sticking unpleasantly in places you'd rather not discuss. Your hands are gritty, your arms ache, and your shadow is starting to shorten, which means one thing: you're nearing mid-morning. Or as you call it, tool time, because that's when everything around you starts to break, fall, or otherwise betray you. Sure enough, the hoe handle creaks in that special way you've come to know and loathe. You dig carefully, gently, like you're negotiating with a testy donkey. Snap. The handle splits right through the middle. One half falls into the weeds like it's given up on life. You stare at it for a beat, then you sigh the long, bone-deep sigh of a man who's seen too many wooden betrayals. You mutter a curse under your breath, something about Vulcan and termites, and head back to the tool shed. And by tool shed, of course, you mean the side of your house where 3 other broken tools lean against the wall like they're on strike. You pick up a spade with a splintered edge. It's not ideal. It's not even functional. But it's better than bare hands and a bad attitude. You head back out. Now, just in time for the breeze to die completely. A fly lands on your neck and refuses to leave. You swat. It returns. You swat again. Repeat. Suddenly, there's a rustle near the fence line. You freeze, squinting toward the source of the noise. Could be a bird. Could be a neighbor. Could be that kid from the next villa who keeps stealing your figs. Then something slithers across the path. You jump back, very unromanly. It's a snake. Small, thin, quick, and absolutely uninterested in your hoe drama. It flicks its tongue and disappears into the brush like a snooty noble avoiding taxes. You stand there, heart racing, trying to remember whether it's the stripy ones or the spotty ones that are poisonous. Historians still debate whether rural Romans had a real classification system for venomous snakes. Personally, you operate under the principle: if it slithers, scream later. You scan the ground nervously for the next 10 minutes, digging in twitchy bursts. Each rustle in the grass is a potential death noodle. Your son returns. Finally, he's got dirt on his face and one sandal missing. You don't ask. I weeded, he announces. You gesture vaguely toward a patch of unweeded land. Did you? Though he looks, frowns. I weeded somewhere. You sigh and hand him the busted hoe. Try this instead. But be gentle. It's sensitive. As he shuffles off, your wife appears from around the corner, carrying a small amphora and a wet cloth. She offers you the water with the kind of tired affection that's earned, not given. You drink deeply. It's warm, slightly metallic, but it might as well be nectar from Mount Olympus. She dabs your neck with the cloth. It's one of the kindest moments you'll get today, and you both know it. Then she says, "You smell like foot." The moment ends. You return to the fields, now working with Marcus, who has figured out how to swing the hoe dramatically without accomplishing anything. At one point, he makes sound effects. Swish, swash. Enemy defeated, enemy is the dirt. You remind him. Dirt has fallen, he declares, whacking a clump of nothing. It's around then that you hear the singing. At first, it's just a faint melody riding the wind. A high voice, then a lower one, loosely in tune, drifting from the direction of the neighboring estate. You pause to listen. A slave song, rhythmic, wordless, haunting in a way. The kind of song you sing when you're not allowed to rest but still need to hold on to something, anything that keeps your arms moving. Marcus listens. 2. Why do they sing? You answer without thinking. To forget the work. He's quiet for a while after that. Eventually, the song fades as the wind shifts. You return to scraping out weeds. A root pulls your spade sideways. Your shoulder protests. The sun, now directly above you, is beginning to cook the back of your ears. I'm hungry again, Marcus says. You blink sweat out of your eyes. Eat a rock. He does not laugh. Instead, he asks, Did Grandpa do this too? You nod. And his father. And his... Marcus thinks on that for a moment. Then says, That's a lot of dumb people with hoes. You chuckle despite yourself. Watch your tongue. That hoe might be listening. You pause to crack your back. It pops in 3 different tones, possibly musical. You wonder if you could pitch that sound to some traveling bard. Then your stomach growls. Loudly. Marcus hears it. See, you're hungry too. You shrug. We'll eat soon, when the sun says so. He squints upward. It's been saying things for hours. And it has. Mostly things like burn, sweat, and regret your life choices. A hawk circles overhead, scanning for mice. You wonder what it would be like to be that hawk, to rise above all this mud, all these broken tools and salty sweat patches. But then you remember hawks eat snakes. And no. Thank you. You give the dirt one final chop, jab the spade into the ground, and call it lunch. You say to no one in particular. The word is magic. Marcus sprints toward the house. You follow. Slower. Each footstep a creaky testament to your spine's enduring protest. Behind you, the fields rest. Half-weeded, partially hoed, and definitely unimpressed. By the time you get back to the house, your tunic is clinging to you like a needy octopus. Your shoulders ache in places you didn't even know had muscles. Marcus is already halfway through rinsing his face from a ceramic basin, splashing water onto the floor with the chaotic joy of someone who didn't just spend hours fending off aggressive weeds. You follow suit, bending over the basin and splashing water onto your face. It's lukewarm and gritty, probably shared by 3 other family members already. but it's still the best sensation you've had since sunrise. You wipe your face with the corner of your tunic, instantly undoing any sense of cleanliness. A win, sort of. Lunch is set out on a low wooden table. There's a bowl of lentils again, some olives, and a crust of bread that could double as a roof tile. A pitcher of watered-down wine sits nearby, sweating slightly in the heat. Your wife is slicing a garlic clove with a dull bronze knife, and the smell hits you like a pungent wall. It's both mouth-watering and slightly aggressive. Marcus drops to the floor mat and grabs for bread. You give him the look. He pauses, mumbles a half-hearted thanks to the household gods, and then tears off a piece. You do the same, muttering your own prayer to Lares and Penates under your breath. Not that you think they're paying attention. You haven't offered incense in 2 weeks, but you figure it can't hurt. You chew. Slowly. The lentils are earthy and soft. The bread is not. You dip it in the wine to soften it. Still crunchy. You glance over at Marcus, who's trying to stretch an olive into 3 bites. Resourceful kid. Then you hear him. Again. Lucius. He's approaching from the south path, carrying what looks like a half-eaten melon and a scroll. You briefly consider faking an injury to avoid another hour of his philosophical ramblings. But it's too late. He's already spotted you. Hail, neighbor, he calls cheerily, stepping into your shade as if invited. He doesn't wait to sit down, just plops onto a stool and waves the scroll like it owes him money. Cato's writings on farming, he announces proudly. I've been practicing his advice. You stare blankly. On what pomegranate spacing, he says, as if this explains everything. You reply, because that's the only response you can manage while chewing. Lucius launches into a speech about crop rotation and manure layering that would be fascinating if your brain weren't shutting down for a nap mid-sentence. He gestures so wildly at one point that a bit of melon juice lands in the lentils. Marcus stares at it like it's a personal insult. Lucius pauses. You all right? You look half dead. That's just my face. You mutter, dunking more bread in wine. As if summoned by boredom, the goat appears. Your goat. Bella. She trots into the yard with the air of someone who's just knocked over something important and doesn't care. Her beard is tangled with something green and definitely stolen. Possibly Gaius's spinach patch. Bella makes a beeline for the olives. No, you warn. She does not care. You lunge for her just as she reaches the table, narrowly knocking over the pitcher of wine. Bella dances backward and lets out a bleat so judgmental it could qualify as Roman oratory. Lucius laughs. She has good taste. You glare. She ate the census scroll last week. He shrugs. Maybe she didn't like the tax rate. Your wife shoos the goat off with a broom, muttering threats involving stew. Bella flicks her tail and trots away like she's won. Lucius finally stands. Back to the pomegranates. Cato calls. You nod absently. Give him my regards. Lucius leaves, humming tunelessly. Silence returns. Blessed and complete. You settle back into your seat, chewing slowly. Marcus is leaning against a post, eyes half-lidded. You feel it too, the warmth, the food, the ache behind your eyelids. The dangerous temptation of midday sleep. And yet, you know what happens if you lie down, you wake up sunburned, stiff, and confused about what century it is. No, better to stay upright. Barely. You wander to the shade of a fig tree and sit with your back to the trunk. The bark digs into your spine, but the dappled light is soothing. Bees hum somewhere above. A lizard scurries across your sandal. You don't even flinch. Marcus flops down beside you with all the grace of a dropped sack of flour. "Do I have to go back out there?" he asks. You nod. He groans dramatically and flops backward into the dust. Somewhere down the path, a shepherd shouts something in Latin too slurred to translate. A dog barks once, then silence again. The food is settling in your stomach, now warm and weighty. You close your eyes just for a moment. The sun, the breeze, the distant bleat of an annoyed sheep, it all blends together into something sleepy and almost pleasant. Then your wife yells, "Marcus!" The chickens are out again, and the dream dies. Marcus bolts upright and sprints toward the coop, kicking up dust as he runs. You sigh, then haul yourself to your feet. A nap would have been nice. But Roman farms don't run themselves, and apparently neither do chickens. You dust off your tunic and pick up your spade. Back to the field, back to the rocks, back to the dull, and to think, it's only noon. The sun is now in full tyrant mode, hovering above you like it's personally offended by your existence. Your tunic, once damp, is now stiff with salt. You can feel every grain of sand in your sandals and every ache in your lower back, like each one has its own little personality. You're bent over the rows of young beans, trying to convince them politely to grow faster. So far, they aren't listening. Beside you, Marcus returns from his chicken chase, triumphant, sweaty, and missing a feather from his hair. You open your mouth to ask what happened, then decide it's probably better you don't know. He plops down next to you, picks up a stick, and pokes at the dirt in what could technically be described as helping. Then comes the buzzing, loud, low, and way too close. You both freeze. Slowly, like you're part of a tragic play. You turn to look. It's a wasp. Not just any wasp. The big kind. The kind that has no business being this aerodynamic and yet defies the gods anyway. It hovers near your ear, as if inspecting your soul. You whisper, "Don't move." Marcus replies, "I already did." The wasp bounces between you like it's trying to pick a target, then mercifully zooms off toward the compost pile. You both exhale at the same time. For a moment, you feel like survivors of a minor war. You go back to weeding. Sweat drips into your eye. You wipe it with the back of your hand, smearing dirt across your cheek. Welcome to Roman skincare. Around you, the countryside buzzes with the white noise of summer. Crickets chirp. Cicadas scream. You try to remember if they scream every year or just this one. Historians still debate whether the Romans considered cicadas charming or a form of divine punishment. Today, you side with divine punishment. To your left, your neighbor Gaius is wrestling a water jug. He's not doing well. The jug wobbles, slips from his grip, and shatters spectacularly on the packed earth. He stares at it for a second, then mutters something that might get him in trouble with Jupiter. You wave sympathetically. He waves back with a defeated look that says, "This is the 5th time this month." Somewhere off to the right, the geese begin honking, loudly, aggressively. The Roman Empire was vast, complex, and mighty, but no part of it. Not even the Senate was louder or more judgmental than a gaggle of geese. One waddles into your field. You stare. It stares back. This is now a standoff. Marcus leans in and whispers, "Do you think they can smell fear?" You nod. "Only mine." The goose hisses and moves closer. You do what any brave Roman farmer would do. You hold up your spade and gently say, "Not today, demon." It flaps, honks, then turns and struts away like it owns the villa. You are both relieved and slightly insulted. You get back to digging, the rhythm now mechanical lift. Jab, drag, repeat. Your mind drifts. You think about dinner. You think about sleep. You think about how, in Rome, farming is still considered an honorable, even noble profession. The backbone of the republic. They say, of course, none of those people are here with a sunburn and blisters the size of walnuts. You pause for water. The jug is lukewarm and tastes faintly of clay and goat breath. But it's wet, and that's what counts. You offer it to Marcus, who gulps it like he's crossing a desert. "Why don't we just plant shade?" he asks, wiping his mouth. You blink at him, like trees, tall ones, everywhere. You stare some more. That might actually be a good idea. You say slowly. He beams. "I'm going to be a genius farmer. You're going to be a sweaty farmer. Keep digging." He groans and returns to poking weeds with his stick. A shepherd passes in the distance, guiding a cluster of sheep that are all somehow going in opposite directions. He waves lazily. You wave back. His tunic is tied up around his waist, and he has a piece of straw hanging from his mouth like he's doing it ironically. You look up. The sky is blinding, cloudless, and humming with heat. You can see shimmers in the distance, wavy lines of air, as if reality itself is melting. You rub your eyes and lean on the spade. Around you, the field waits. Still half finished. Still full of rocks and thistles and the occasional beetle with attitude. Your arms are heavy now. Your mind is foggy. You think briefly about the baths in town, cool water, gossip, and benches. But then you remember the fee, and the time, and the last time you went and stepped on someone's lost oil flask and nearly caused a riot. So instead, you settle for a brief sit on an overturned basket. Your body sinks into it like it's made of clouds. Marcus joins you, flopping down in a pile of scratchy hay. "You know what I miss," he says. "Freedom, you guess. Dates. The fruit kind. From the market." You nod. "Too expensive this year. Maybe if I catch a snake and sell it to the senator's kid." You glance sideways. "That's a terrible idea." He shrugs. "So is farming." Fair point. The geese honk again. A dust devil spins in the far end of the field, lifting a few dry leaves into the air like a mini Roman storm god playing with leftovers. You don't move. You just sit there, staring at the shimmer, letting your breath slow, letting the ache sink deeper until it becomes part of you, until you're not even sure where your bones end and the dust begins. Then your wife's voice carries from the house. "If either of you naps, I'm cooking with the bad turnips." You both groan and rise like haunted statues. Back to work. You're beginning to suspect the sun is stuck. It's been hovering in the same angry position for what feels like a week, and you're starting to take it personally. Your sweat has sweat. Your tunic is so damp you could probably wring it out and water a vineyard. You look over at Marcus. He's got a weed stuck to his forehead and is muttering something about Spartacus and starting a revolution. You almost want to encourage it, at least revolting means a break from the beans. "Break time," you announce. He drops a stick like it's cursed and bolts toward the house without waiting for confirmation. You follow at a slower pace, passing the fig tree where a bird is trying to eat something that may or may not be a beetle. You give it a nod. The bird ignores you. Everyone does. At the house, your wife is already setting out the lunch leftovers, the rest of the lentils. Some bread that's even harder than earlier, and miracle of miracles, a new wedge of goat cheese. Possibly from Lucius. Possibly from that goat Bella terrorized this morning. You don't ask. You sit on the stool, take a deep breath, and exhale like a dying Roman flute. Marcus is already halfway through the cheese, looking far too pleased for someone who just spent the last 2 hours chasing grasshoppers and nearly falling into the irrigation ditch. Lucius said this came from Flavia's goat. Your wife mutters, "You freeze mid-bite." "Is that the one that kicked the magistrate's cousin Marcus?" asks. Mouth full. Your wife nods grimly. "The very same." "Well, it tastes like revenge," you say, chewing carefully. You wash it down with a bit of diluted wine, savoring the warmth even though it's barely more than a vinegar-flavored suggestion of grape. Lunch is slow, quiet. The kind of quiet that only happens when every part of your body is processing fatigue like it's a new religion. You hear the low hum of bees outside, the occasional cluck from the coop, and Gaius in the distance yelling at a donkey that clearly doesn't respect him. Marcus lies back on the dusty floor mat and stares at the ceiling. I could sleep forever. You'd sleep through a barbarian invasion. You reply. He nods solemnly. Maybe that's the plan. You chuckle, which hurts, and lean against the cool stone wall. A breeze filters through the open doorway. You don't move for a while. Neither of you does. It's not quite a nap, more of a strategic pause. Then your wife reappears, holding a basket and wearing the look that means you're not done yet. You promised to patch the coop today, she says. You glance at Marcus. He points at himself. I can't. I've got splinters. You squint. From what he doesn't answer, he's already sliding under the bench like a turtle hiding from chores. You stand up slowly, bones creaking, and grab the woven tool pouch. Time to fix the coop. Again, this will be the third time this month. The chickens have figured out that freedom exists, and now they're determined to escape like feathered gladiators every chance they get. You trudge around the side of the house. The coop stands there in its usual state, tilted, offended, and full of judgmental eyes. A few hens cluck at you like you're late for a meeting. One of them, the spotted one you call Senator, pecks at a loose board with deep suspicion. You kneel down, pull out a strip of old rope, and start retying the hinges. The wood is warped. The nails are bent. You don't even know where the hammer went. You just use a rock and hope for the best. That's Roman engineering for you. Perseverance with extra blisters. Halfway through, Lucius strolls by again. You pretend not to notice. He notices you noticing and waves. I hear there's a gladiator coming through town tomorrow. He calls. You blink. What kind retired? One arm. Still charges admission to punch goats. You think about that for a moment. Then you say, honestly, I'd pay to see that. Lucius laughs and keeps walking. You return to the coop. One of the boards splits under your hand. Of course it does. You sigh, grab another scrap of wood, and wedge it in place. It's not elegant, but it'll hold probably until the next windstorm or until Senator organizes another jailbreak. Once it's patched, you scoop some grain into the trough. The hens descend like feathery mobs. One of them, Henrietta, the only one with any manners, lets you pet her once, then turns and struts away like you should be honored. You wipe your hands on your tunic and head back inside. Marcus is asleep, not just nodding off asleep, but sprawled out like a defeated hero on the battlefield. Your wife's already stepping over him as she sweeps the floor. She barely glances at him. He says he's been emotionally wounded by the chicken drama. She explains. You nod. It's been a trying day. You sit on the stool and finally allow yourself to breathe. It's quiet again. Even Bella is sleeping under the fig tree, legs twitching like she's chasing dreams of chaos. You glance at the field, still waiting, still thirsty, still demanding. But for now, they can wait. You have bread? You have cheese? You have 5 whole minutes of sitting without a goose interrupting. Then, from the hills, a high-pitched scream. Marcus bolts upright. Was that you hold up a hand? Wait for it. A second scream, lower, followed by distant laughter. You nod. Shepherd boys again, probably daring each other to eat wild onions. Marcus lies back down. Romans are weird. Romans are bored. You correct. You stretch your legs, which respond with several crunchy sounds. Outside, the sun is inching westward. Slowly, stubbornly, like it's too tired to move. You take another bite of cheese. It still tastes like goat and revenge. Your stomach, now reluctantly full of goat cheese and vengeance, gives a low groan of protest as you shuffle out to the latrine. It's time. There's no escaping it. You could try pretending you don't hear the call, but nature in ancient Rome is less polite than modern plumbing. It demands attention. Your latrine is located, tragically, at the edge of the property, behind the shed and next to the compost heap that's been fermenting for weeks. It's not exactly the pride of your estate. You refer to it affectionately as the pit of regret. Marcus trails behind you, presumably for moral support or to throw rocks at geckos along the path. He stops short as you reach the wooden enclosure. I'll wait here, he says. Wisely, you enter alone. Now, Roman latrines weren't the shining marble communal wonders you read about in city forums. No mosaics, no flowing water, just a wood plank with a hole and the smell of despair. Your toilet brush is a shared sponge on a stick sitting in a bucket of vinegar water, which, frankly, raises more questions than it answers. Historians still debate whether rural homes use the same communal hygiene system as cities, based on your lived experience, unfortunately. Yes, you sit carefully. Flies buzz lazily around you, the true rulers of this throne. You take shallow breaths and try not to touch anything more than strictly necessary. A small lizard darts out from under the plank and stares at you. You stare back. This is not a proud moment, but it is reflective. You emerge some minutes later, humbled. Marcus looks at your face and wisely decides not to speak. You both head toward the well to wash up. The rope pulley creaks as you draw water. Cold, clear, and deeply appreciated. You splash your hands and face, rinse the worst of it away, and take a long sip. The water tastes faintly of tin, but it's better than the wine-flavored water back inside. After drying off, you decide it's time to check the storage shed. It's not really a shed. more like an overly ambitious lean-to with dreams of becoming a barn. You open the door, technically a warped plank you push with your foot and step inside. Immediately, the smell of dried herbs, dust, and mildew smacks you in the face. There's a pile of straw in the corner for the goat, some empty amphorae stacked like lazy soldiers, and a spiderweb so big it deserves a postal code. You make your way through the clutter, checking your supplies. 1 sack of barley, half a jug of olive oil, a pot of pickled turnips that started to whistle when the wind hits it just right. There's also a broken wheel leaning against the wall. You forgot about that. You stare at it, trying to remember how long it's been there. Months, years. It's basically furniture now. You return to the house to find Marcus on the roof. Why, you ask? He shrugs. Better view. You nod. Watch for tax collectors. He salutes. Back inside, your wife is grinding grain with a heavy stone. She pauses to blow hair from her face and mutters, "We're down to the last jar of honey." You wince. That's serious. Honey is your only defense against dry bread and emotional breakdowns. You grab a ledger tablet from the wall shelf. It's a scratched wax tablet you use for recording the most exciting details of Roman farm life: planting dates, harvest notes, and the exact day the goat bit the magistrate's nephew, a personal favorite. You scribble a quick reminder: buy honey. Avoid Lucius. Marcus climbs back down just as you're inspecting your fingernails and wondering if dirt is now a permanent feature of your anatomy. Can we nap now, he pleads. You consider it deeply. The afternoon sun has softened slightly. A breeze is moving through the olive trees, carrying with it the scent of sage and goat fur. You could lie down, just for a bit. A few moments of bliss before the evening work begins. Surely, the gods would understand. Then you hear the clatter. It's coming from the alley between your house and Gaius's wall. Something metal, something chaotic. You step outside and round the corner, where you find Gaius himself standing over a bucket that is, inexplicably, on fire. What are you doing, you ask? Testing a new rat deterrent, he says with far too much enthusiasm. Fire smoke. It's very Roman. You stare at the flames licking the edges of his tool bucket. Looks effective, you say, edging away. Back at your own house. Marcus is now lying flat in the dirt, eyes closed, arms spread like a martyr. Still no nap, he whispers. Still no nap. He groans theatrically. You head to the garden beds next to your personal patch of basil, mint, and whatever else survived last winter's frost tantrum. The basil is flourishing. The mint is aggressive. You harvest a handful and stuff it into a pouch. Maybe tonight's meal will taste less like regret. As you rise, your knees crack in what can only be described as a minor Roman earthquake. You pause. Breathe deeply, and look at the horizon. The shadows are stretching. The breeze is cooler. Somewhere in the woods, a dog barks once, possibly chasing a hare, possibly chasing its own tail. It's hard to tell with dogs. Marcus is now playing a game with a stick and a very unlucky beetle. You head back inside only to immediately step on a pebble. Swear under your breath, and remember you still haven't repaired the sandals. Your wife hands you a threadbare cloth and says, "If I see you napping before sundown, I will throw a turnip at your head." You nod solemnly. Marcus looks hopeful. A cooked turnip. She stares at him. He withers instantly. And so, with the coop patched, the latrine survived, and the mint harvested. You step outside once more, just as the sun begins its descent. Evening is coming, and with it carts, chaos, and possibly Einem the Goat incident. Evening doesn't just arrive, it creeps. It slinks. It stretches itself out like a smug cat in a sunbeam, making you think the worst is over until you realize the worst is still out there. And it's dry, cracked, and growing smaller by the minute. You're back in the fields now, standing among rows of wilting olive saplings. Their leaves curl inward like they're whispering bad news to each other. The ground beneath them has gone from dirt to dust, then back to something more philosophical disappointment. Marcus stands beside you with a wooden bucket and a hopeful expression. You're both looking at the sky like it owes you money. "Do you think it'll rain?" he asks. You snort. We'd have a better chance asking Neptune for a personal sponge bath. He shrugs. Neptune is dramatic, and he's not wrong. You bend to inspect a cluster of leaves, rubbing one between your fingers. Dry as parchment. You spit into your hand and smear a little water into the soil. It vanishes instantly. Gone. Absorbed by a land thirstier than Lucius at a wine tasting. "It's not looking good," you mutter. Marcus tilts his head. "We could pray." You glance at the sky again. "We could also scream." Same result. Still, you kneel in the dirt, press your palm against the earth, and offer a quiet word to Ceres, goddess of agriculture. Not your most poetic prayer, just something short and desperate. Like, please historians still debate how much faith Roman farmers truly placed in the gods versus just complaining to them loudly. You're in the latter camp. Loud, persistent, and increasingly sarcastic. The distant clang of a bell breaks your concentration. That means Gaius is calling in his oxen, which means it's later than you thought. You stand with a groan and wipe your hands on your tunic, leaving streaks of brown that blend in with the streaks of olive oil and goat prints. "Come on," you say, nodding toward the cistern. "Let's water what we can." Or what? You and Marcus haul the bucket together, one on each side. The weight of it sloshes as you walk, soaking your toes in lukewarm disappointment. You try to ration the water, giving each sapling a modest splash, like little sips for dying soldiers. It's not enough, but it's symbolic. And Roman life is big on symbolism. As you water, you make small talk to fill the air. "Remember when that senator's wife tried to plant pomegranates upside down?" Marcus giggles. "She said it was symbolic, too. Symbolic of what failure the sun continues to slide down, leaving a golden haze over the trees, the kind of light that makes everything look nicer than it really is." Your arms are shaking from the bucket. Your feet hurt, and your back has decided to declare itself an independent province. Marcus tries to skip a stone across the trough and fails spectacularly. It lands with a glunk and splashes his tunic. He gasps. "That was clean water." "No such thing," you reply, wiping your brow. He squints into the distance. "Is that smoke?" You follow his gaze. A thin curl of it is rising from the hill to the east. A cooking fire, a neighbor burning manure. Or, something less comforting. "Probably Gaius again," you say. "Or the gods." "You think they're trying to cook us?" You nod. On a low flame, you finally reach the end of the olive row. Marcus dumps the last of the water, and you both watch it sink into the cracked earth like a parched ghost. You sit down on a nearby stump and stretch your legs. The stump creaks. Your knees creak. Everything creaks. Marcus flops into the grass beside you. So, do you think it'll be better tomorrow? You pause, looking out at the field. Maybe, you say. Or maybe we'll get lucky and a senator will adopt us. He perks up. Really, no. Oh, you reach into your pouch and pull out 2 small figs. You hand one to him. It's squished, warm, and speckled with dust. But right now it might as well be gold. As you chew, the taste hits your tongue sweet, slightly fermented, earthy. You close your eyes for a second and let it linger. The fig is the one thing that hasn't disappointed you today. A breeze stirs. Light, cool. Just enough to move the edge of your tunic. You inhale deeply. Then you hear it. Bella, someone shouts in the distance. You freeze. That's your goat. A few seconds later, a blur of white and horns barrels across the path, kicking up dirt and flinging a bucket into the air. Behind her, your son's voice. She got out again. Of course she did. Bella sprints through the olive grove like she's reenacting the Battle of Cannae. You rise to your feet, body protesting every motion, and begin the chase. You're not fast, but you're persistent. Bella bounds over the ditch. You stumble after. She dodges between 2 trees. You duck and almost lose a sandal. Marcus joins the pursuit. She's heading for the grain shed. Of course she is. Bella barrels through the yard, knocking over a pile of rakes. She pauses briefly at the compost heap, sniffs it, and then gallops on, just barely missing Lucius's melon patch. Finally, after a spirited chase, she stops dead in her tracks. Right in front of the open gate to your neighbor's bathhouse. You both freeze. She turns slowly, one eye on Marcus, one on you. Then she walks through the gate. Do we follow Marcus pants? No. You gasp. We negotiate. 15 minutes. 2 fig bribes, and a broken amphora later. Bella's back in her pen sulking, but confined. You and Marcus collapse into the grass. The sun has almost dipped below the hills now. The sky is streaked with orange, purple, and the faint sense that the gods are messing with you on purpose. You lie there for a long moment, staring up at the clouds, your heart still racing. Somewhere nearby, a cricket starts chirping. Still think tomorrow's going to be better, Marcus asks. You close your eyes and whisper, "Ask me after supper." You return to the house walking like a man twice your age, dragging a stick you don't remember picking up. Marcus is ahead of you, already bragging to your wife about how he single-handedly wrestled the goat away from an active bathhouse. You let him have it, history will remember. Inside, the air is a little cooler. Not because of any Roman air conditioning, don't be silly, but because someone cracked the door open just wide enough to let the dusk breeze roll through. The hearth is warm again, and the smell of garlic and onion wafts through the room like an apology from the universe. You sit on a stool and peel off your sandals. One is held together with string, the other with sheer willpower. Your foot has developed a blister with its own zip code. You prod it gently. It stares back. Your wife, ever practical, sets a bowl of water down in front of you without a word. You soak your feet. It's hot, borderline scalding, which means it's healing. Apparently, as you exhale and sink into the brief comfort of not walking. Marcus pulls up a stool and starts sharpening a stick. When asked why, he simply says, "In case the goat comes back." You nod. It's been that kind of day. Your wife joins you, rubbing her palms with oil. You watch the way her shoulders sag. She's as tired as you are, if not more. While you were fighting olives and chasing Bella, she was managing the house, prepping the meal, beating dust out of mats, and probably losing a few arguments with a broom. Any news, you ask? She shrugs. Lucius says the market might have figs tomorrow. You raise an eyebrow. Fresh, or the kind he's been hiding under a towel for 2 weeks. She smirks. He didn't say, which means towel. You both chuckle. Quietly. Carefully. It's a luxury, and you don't want to overuse it. She ladles supper into bowls of thick porridge of barley and onions, with a few wilted greens on top for flair. There's a heel of bread on the table, chipped but still technically edible. You chew slowly. The meal tastes better than breakfast, but only just... The onion helps. As you eat, you think back to when your plowshare snapped this morning. That little crack in your day, like the gods signaling. Oh no, friend, we're just getting started. Marcus talks between mouthfuls. He's retelling the goat incident with more embellishment than Homer on a deadline. There are now 3 goats, one of them glowing, and someone who may or may not have been a Roman senator in a towel. Historians will debate this version. You say flatly, they'll thank me for the drama. He replies, you both finish eating. Your wife clears the dishes, while you lean against the wall and savor the moment your body feels almost like it belongs to you again. But then your arm cramps. So, not quite. You remember you still need to fix the plow. It's lying under a tarp outside like a wounded soldier. But the thought of moving again makes your bones protest louder than the geese ever could. Your wife joins you again with a little pot of oil. She dips her fingers and starts rubbing your shoulders. You nearly weep from the sensation. It's not romantic, not even gentle, but it's the kind of practical care only a Roman spouse knows how to deliver. Firm, direct, just painful enough to be effective. You've got knots, she mutters. They have names. You reply. She smirks. This one's Brutus. You both laugh. This time, less carefully. The sun has officially dipped. The house is cast in soft amber shadows. The animals are quiet for now, except Bella, who occasionally grunts from her pen like she's writing a strongly worded letter in her head. You head outside for a breath of evening air. The yard is bathed in dusk. A few neighbors are visible through the trees, tiny flickers of firelight. Low voices, clatter of pottery. You see Gaius leaning against his fence, sipping something from a cup and humming a song with absolutely no melody. Plow's broken. You call to him. Everything's broken. He replies, fair enough. You walk over to the shed and lift the tarp. The plowshare is split, clean down the middle. You run your fingers along the brake. The metal is old, tired like everything else around here. Like you consider fixing it tonight. You really do. But then you remember you're human, not Hercules. And there's no prize for exhaustion. You walk back inside, stopping only to swat a mosquito the size of a walnut. Marcus is already half asleep, lying on his back with a goose feather in one hand and his sandal in the other, mumbling something about defending the farm. Your wife lays out a fresh mat and places a clay lamp near your bedroll. You strip off your tunic and stretch out onto the scratchy blanket. Your shoulders sing. Not in a good way. More like a dirge. Outside, you hear Lucius shouting about star positions again. He must be back from town. His voice echoes across the valley. I swear Jupiter's in a bad alignment this month. You whisper, so am I. You turn to face the wall and try to shut your mind off, but images from the day keep floating past the goose standoff, the broken tool, the goat's smug little face. You groan. Your wife nudges you. Sleep. I'm trying. Try quieter. You close your eyes. The oil lamp flickers once, twice, then settles. Shadows dance on the wall in slow, lazy waves. The house is still. The fields are quiet. Even the geese have surrendered. Your mind drifts, and somewhere deep in the distance, thunder rumbles. Or maybe that's Gaius falling off his fence again. You wake up with your face pressed into straw, one hand under your cheek, and a tiny, mysterious rock embedded in your rib cage. You blink, sit up slowly, and try to remember if you were dreaming or if the dream was just your life again, only with slightly more talking goats. Outside, it's barely dawn. Again. You groan and lie back down for exactly 2 more seconds before your wife yells from the other side of the room. The cart's broken. Of course it is. You dress slowly, painfully, like your bones have to be negotiated with. Your tunic is still damp from yesterday, probably never dried. You consider switching to the spare, then remember the spare has a large hole right in the middle, positioned in such a way that the wind turns it into a surprise toga. You head outside, rubbing your eyes and muttering to yourself. The cart sits there like a collapsed monument, one wheel half off, axle at an angle that defies Roman geometry. Beside it stands Marcus, holding a rope and looking far too proud. What did you do? I tried to fix it. He beams. With what optimism? You stare at him. He smiles harder. Somewhere behind you, Bella bleats in solidarity. You crouch and inspect the damage. The wheel's pin is missing entirely, the axle cracked, and the cart bed looks like someone launched a small goat from it at high speed. Did the goat? She climbed in, Marcus says defensively, and then out, very fast. You sigh and sit back on your heels. It's going to take hours to fix this. Or a miracle. Possibly both. You send up a quick, sarcastic prayer to Mercury, god of messengers and lost things, including wheel pins. Apparently, your wife appears with a clay cup of water and a piece of bread. Here, she says, don't die yet. Thanks for the pep talk. She disappears again, and you nibble the bread. It tastes like sawdust. But you're grateful anyway. You start repairs. Marcus is in charge of holding things. Mostly he holds the stick. Occasionally he pokes the wheel and says things like, "That looks better," when it absolutely doesn't. Bella returns mid-repair, chewing something that was probably a scroll in its past life. She watches with vague disapproval, as if she'd have done a better job. Honestly, she might have. Eventually, you manage to prop the axle up using 2 bricks, a bit of rope, and sheer spite. You wedge the wheel back on, secure it with a borrowed pin from the gate hinge, which will definitely cause a problem later, and stand back. Try it, you say. Marcus grabs the cart handles and pushes. It moves 2 feet, then stops with a lurch. Better, he asks. Marginally. You spend the next half hour testing it across uneven ground. It wobbles like a drunk senator, but doesn't collapse. You count that as a win. You load it with baskets, barley, turnips, and 1 questionable jar of fermented cucumbers that Lucius insists have healing properties. You'll drop it off at the forum stall later, hoping someone with poor taste and no nose will buy it. Marcus climbs in, claiming he'll guard the cargo. You let him, mostly because it's the first time he's sat still all morning. You start pulling the cart down the path toward the market stall you share with 3 other farmers. The wheel squeaks, the axle clicks, you groan with every third step. Then the goat follows you. You don't even look back. You just say, "Don't cause problems." Bella huffs. By the time you reach the stall, the sun is already hot, and Lucius is already talking. He's waving a cloth over his pickled leeks like they're royalty. "You're late," he calls cheerfully. "Your cart's missing a wheel." You reply, "Symbolism," he says, without explanation. You unload your goods, set them out, and collapse onto the stool behind the stall. Marcus jumps down from the cart and promptly starts bartering with a boy selling dried figs. His haggling tactic is to wave his arms a lot and mention the goat incident. The boy looks unimpressed. Lucius sidles over. "Heard you broke a cart?" "No, someone broke it. I just fixed it." He nods solemnly. "Did you try olive oil on what everything? It's the Roman way." You stare at him. "That's not how wheels work." He shrugs. "It is if you believe hard enough." Lucius wanders off to discuss snail farming with someone. You lean back and watch as your turnips catch the attention of a woman in a faded blue stola. She picks one up, sniffs it, frowns, and puts it back like it insulted her cousin. Business is slow. It's always slow. Everyone has turnips. Everyone has onions. No one wants pickled cucumbers, no matter how many times Lucius calls them nature's sponge. Eventually, Marcus returns with a bag of semi-dried figs and a big grin. "I traded her my rock collection." You blink. "Your what?" "She said she collects them too." You glance at the girl. She's smiling and already arranging the rocks like tiny soldiers. You make a mental note to be nicer to her family next Saturnalia. Lucius returns with a report about someone's cow giving birth to twins, and a debate about whether that means good luck or impending doom. Historians still debate how Romans interpreted agricultural omens. Some said twins were blessings. Others claimed they meant famine. You don't have time for omens. You have a goat eating a basket of leeks. Bella, you bark. She freezes, leek in mouth, then trots off defiantly. You finish your trading, pack up what didn't sell, and begin the trudge home. Marcus is now skipping ahead, somehow not tired. Bella is dragging a bit of rope she found. Lucius is still talking. You tune it all out, focus on the path, and wonder briefly what life would be like if you'd become a baker instead. Then you remember the heat, the flour, the wasps. You sigh. This is fine. The wheel creaks once more as you crest the final hill, the sun lowering behind you. The farm glows in the late light, dusty, tilted, chaotic, but still yours. And that, somehow, is enough. The sun is low now, casting long shadows that make everything look more dramatic than it deserves. Your house looks less like a tired pile of stone and more like a heroic outpost. The goat looks like a noble beast instead of a menace with hooves. Even Marcus, dragging the empty cart behind him while humming off-key, seems almost mythic in profile if you squint hard and ignore the fig smear on his face. You've made it home. The smell of warm bread hits you before you even step through the gate. Your wife has lit the hearth again. and by some divine miracle or maybe pity, she's managed to conjure a fresh loaf. It's small, dense, and probably sharper than your plow blade, but it smells like hope. You unload what's left from the cart: a few shriveled onions, a turnip that tried to escape during transit, and the legendary jar of fermented cucumbers, which somehow made it back unsold. Again. Marcus flops down on the grass with a theatrical groan. I've given everything. I am spent. You gave away your rock collection. You remind him. And received glory. You received 3 figs. He lifts one into the air. They are glorious figs. You leave him to it and head inside. The light inside the house is soft, filtered through a reed mat hanging over the doorway. The fire crackles. The clay pot on the hearth bubbles, and your wife is stirring something that might actually have seasoning in it. Smells good, you say, dropping the cucumbers on the table with a dull thunk. She glances at them and frowns. Still, even the dogs refused it. She wipes her hands. Well, maybe the gods want it as an offering. Even the gods have standards. She smirks and hands you a bowl. Warm lentils with crushed garlic, and wait. Is that a hint of mint? You blink. Did we get rich? She shrugs. Lucius owed me. You don't ask why. It's best not to know. You eat in slow, grateful bites. The flavor a small reward after a day full of disappointment, blisters, and goat diplomacy. Marcus slides in beside you with a fig in each hand and the proud smirk of someone who has already mentally titled his memoir, A Life in Sandals. You chew in silence for a moment. Then you ask, Where's the goat? Your wife points out the door. You follow her gesture and see Bella on the roof. You blink. She climbed the pile of amphorae. She explains. You nod slowly. Did she lay down? No. She's standing on the chimney. Bella stares at you with the confidence of someone who's just claimed divine status. Her horns gleam in the firelight. Her hooves are very much where no hooves should be. Marcus stands and yells. I knew she was a god. You mutter a quiet plea to Mercury. Again, nothing happens. Eventually, the goat climbs down, because even divine beings get bored. She saunters back into the yard like nothing happened and begins eating part of the broom. You let it happen. You've learned which battles are worth fighting. Brooms are replaceable. Your sanity is not. The sky outside darkens, slowly turning indigo. The stars begin to blink awake, one by one, like little gods peeking out from behind their curtains. Somewhere in the distance, a flute plays, badly, probably a shepherd again. You clean up after the meal, rinsing bowls in the basin out back. The water is cold, and the clay pitcher is chipped. But the act is peaceful, the kind of simplicity that makes you feel, for just a second, like things might be okay even if your sandals are held together with prayer and your back feels like it's been cursed. As you re-enter the house, you catch Marcus whispering to the cucumbers, Sleep well, pickle warriors, your time will come. You decide not to ask. The hearth fire crackles quietly. Your wife is mending a tunic under the flickering light. You sit beside her and reach for your worn tablet, scratching in a few notes from the day cart wheel fixed barely, sold 4 onions, goat now airborne. Your wife pauses her stitching. You're bleeding. You look at your arm. There's a tiny scratch from the olive branch incident earlier. You hadn't even noticed. She dabs it with a cloth and shakes her head. Maybe tomorrow we'll stay inside. You chuckle and do what debate philosophy with the cucumbers. She actually laughs a short, breathy sound that makes you feel oddly accomplished. Marcus curls up in the corner, wrapped in a faded blanket, now humming to himself in a tune that might be inspired by fig trees or chaos. It's hard to tell. Then, just as the night seems to settle, there's a knock on the door. You freeze. Knocks are rare, unwanted even. You rise, walk to the curtain, and pull it aside. It's Gaius, holding a chicken. It laid 2 eggs, he says, beaming. Simultaneously, you stare at the bird. It looks mildly traumatized. Gaius grins. Historians will talk about this. You nod solemnly. I'm sure they will. He hands you one of the eggs. For luck, you accept it like it's made of gold. Back inside. Your wife blinks. What was that? An omen, you say. Possibly breakfast. She takes the egg, examines it, and sets it on the shelf beside the vinegar. Outside. The wind picks up slightly, rustling the leaves. Bella settles into her pen with a grunt. The stars above shimmer a little brighter. You stretch your legs out on the mat, your body groaning in protest. Every blister, every scratch, every crooked toe is accounted for. Marcus whispers from his corner, half asleep. Hey, if Bella was a god, which one would she be? You think about it. Probably Discordia. You reply. He snorts, then goes quiet. And in the hush that follows, deep and still, you finally let yourself start to drift. The fire has died down to glowing coals, casting a gentle orange wash over the floor. You're just about to surrender completely to sleep when there's another sound. Soft. Deliberate. Human. Gossip. Not your wife. Not Marcus. It's coming from outside. You rise with a grunt, toss a blanket over your shoulders like a toga, and step into the cool night. The stars are out in full force now, smeared across the sky in that careless, brilliant Roman way. And there they are, your neighbors, gathered in the space between houses, huddled near a small shared fire like moths drawn to scandal. You recognize the voices immediately. Lucius, of course, old Claudia, who sees everything, and young Nerva, who barely speaks unless there's drama. You walk over slowly, curiosity dragging you more than your legs. Lucius is in full form, waving a stick as if it's a scroll. I swear, he says, I saw him sneaking behind the olive mill with the widow Livia. And not for olives, if you know what I mean. Claudia gasps so loudly you're worried she might inhale the fire. Nerva leans in. But isn't she? Lucius nods with relish. Engaged to a senator's nephew, the one with the crooked nose. You sit on a log at the edge of the group. No one acknowledges your arrival because everyone is far too invested in the drama. Claudia shakes her head. It's always the widows. Lucius smirks. And the senators. There's a moment of silence, followed by a burst of laughter. You chuckle too. It feels good warm, effortless, like wine without the headache. You stretch your legs toward the fire and let the glow soak into your sore knees. Nerva pulls something from her cloak and hands it around. Dried apple slices. Possibly stolen. Definitely delicious. Someone asks if you've heard the latest news from town. You shake your head. Lucius immediately launches into a tale about a statue falling over in the forum and crushing a lawyer's cart full of legal scrolls. Historians still debate whether it was an accident. He says deadpan. You raise an eyebrow, or an act of divine editorial discretion. They laugh again, this time a little too loudly. A dog barks in the distance. Maybe yours, maybe Gaius's. Hard to tell in the dark. Claudia mentions that a traveling poet passed through the next village. Supposedly he performs epics using vegetables as puppets. No one knows what that means. Everyone agrees it sounds worth seeing. Nerva asks the group a question. Do you think Rome will ever be quiet? The fire pops. Sparks drift upward. No, you say, but the countryside knows how to whisper. Lucius stares at the flames. Even here, people are always building something. Or breaking it. You nod. Or chasing goats off rooftops. They laugh again. Your shoulders relax for the first time in hours. Someone throws another stick on the fire. A burst of light. Shadows dance across faces worn by sun and wind and dirt. But here, under the stars, you all look timeless. A little blurry around the edges. Like figures from a mosaic someone forgot to finish. The conversation drifts toward dreams, what people want, what they almost had, what they pretend they don't care about. Gaius, who appeared halfway through the gossip and hasn't spoken yet, finally says, all I want is a good night's sleep. No blisters, no screams, just sleep. Everyone nods, even Lucius, whose entire identity is made of sound. Claudia mutters. Sleep is what the gods give their favorites. Then the gods clearly have favorites, you say? Because they've skipped me. Someone passes around a clay jug of wine light, watered down, just enough to smooth the edges. You take a sip. The taste is familiar, simple, slightly sour like life itself. Eventually, the group starts to break up, drifting back to their homes like drowsy spirits. You walk slowly toward your house, the chill creeping in as the fire disappears behind you. Marcus is curled up on the floor, one arm flung over his face. Your wife has already doused the lamp. The only light comes from the window, where moonlight paints silver lines on the wall. You sit down on your mat, unwrap your blanket, and lie back with a long, shaky sigh. But of course, no peace is permanent. You scratch at your arm, then your leg, then your back. The bugs, the summer bugs have found you. You slap at something, miss, slap again. It gets personal. You hear a rustle. Marcus sits up. Are you fighting? Yes. Are you losing? Yes. He throws a piece of blanket at you in solidarity, then flops back down and is instantly asleep. You lie there, itching, twitching, sighing. Eventually, your wife tosses you a pouch of crushed mint and says, "Put it near your head." Keeps them away. You do. It smells strong, clean, almost sacred. And for a few minutes, it works. You settle again, eyes half-lidded, breath evening out. Then you feel it. A blister on your foot. Popped. You hiss through your teeth. I told you to wear the thicker sandals, your wife mutters in the dark. They are the thicker sandals. You reply. Then you're just unlucky. Possibly cursed. Blame Mars. You both go quiet. A breeze stirs the curtain. The stars flicker. You drift again. Just as you're about to slip under. Marcus mumbles. Do you think Rome ever sleeps? You smile. No. But maybe we can. You don't remember falling asleep, but you definitely remember waking up. The floor has gotten harder. The straw is poking you in all the tenderest places. Your mouth is dry, your back is locked, and your calf is currently cramping like it's trying to fold itself into origami. You sit up slowly, whispering a mix of prayer and profanity, and immediately bump your head against the wall. A perfect Roman morning. Except it's still night. The moonlight is brighter now, shining directly through the window, cutting across the floor like a silver blade. Everything is quiet, save for the low buzz of a fly that apparently never sleeps and the distant rustling of leaves. You blink, rub your eyes, and hear it again, that soft shuffling noise. Not loud, not threatening, just persistent. Like someone or something is walking around outside your window. You glance toward the door, still closed. You glance at Marcus, still asleep, a blanket over his head and one hand gripping a sandal like it's a sword. You decide not to wake him. You're the adult. Probably. You slip outside, barefoot and half-blind, into the cold Roman night. The air has cooled considerably, sharp with the smell of earth, herbs, and goat. You pause. Listen. There it is again. Rustle. Rustle. You tiptoe past the olive press, stepping over a forgotten rake and trying not to yelp when you step on a particularly aggressive pebble. Then you round the corner and find nothing. Or rather, you find Bella. Asleep. Upright. Somehow standing in the middle of the herb bed, completely still, chewing on something in her sleep. Her eyes flutter open slowly, land on you, and swear to Jupiter she rolls them. Then resumes chewing. You stare at her. She snorts and turns around. You exhale, of course. You walk back toward the house, rubbing your arms for warmth, and pause at the door to look at the sky. It's clear, beautiful, even. The stars stretch out forever. The moon hangs low and heavy, and right in the middle of the silence comes a sound that is, without a doubt, a wolf howling, or maybe a shepherd with a death wish. You listen closer. Another howl, then a second one, smaller, like an echo or a confused dog trying to join in. Either way, it's getting closer. You slip back inside quickly and slide the bolt across the door. Your wife's voice mumbles from the darkness. Wolf, you whisper. Possibly. She sighs. Leave the goat outside. She's already made her peace. You settle back into the mat, but your mind refuses to quiet. It pings from noise to noise, sound to sound. You try counting sheep, but all you see is Lucius narrating their movement. It's not restful. And then, of course, come the blisters. Your feet ache. Your hands sting. The crack in your right thumb seems to throb in rhythm with your pulse. You lie there, stiff and sore and entirely unable to relax. You roll onto your back. The roof above you creaks with every gust of wind. Somewhere in the walls, a mouse is either nesting or preparing for battle. Bella bleats in her sleep. You try to drown it all out by focusing on your breathing. Slow, steady, but the itch returns. That phantom itch on your shoulder. You scratch. It moves to your neck. You scratch again. Then it's your ankle. Then your spine. Then, just to keep things interesting, your nose. You are now officially at war with your own skin. Your wife, still half asleep, mutters. You're making a sound like a dying frog. You whisper. It's the bugs. They're winning. I know. She rolls over. You sigh again and stare at the ceiling. Somewhere in the dark, Marcus whispers. If I die tonight, tell the cucumbers I was brave. You chuckle. They already know. Eventually, your body begins to surrender, one muscle at a time. The aches dull, the itches fade, your breathing slows. You think about the plowshare you still haven't fixed, the market figs you still can't afford, the rumors about rain coming next week. Maybe, maybe not. Historians still debate whether Roman farmers were truly as resilient as their reputation suggests or just too stubborn to collapse. You think it's a bit of both. You close your eyes and feel the edge of sleep teasing you again. And that's when you remember tomorrow is tax day. Your eyes fly open. You sit bolt upright. Your wife groans. No. You nod. Yes. She groans again. Marcus says, "What's tax pain?" You both reply. There's no avoiding it. You're going to have to rise early, collect all the ledgers, polish your sandals, rehearse your polite yet desperate voice for the collector, and pretend the broken fence and goat footmarks on the roof were a seasonal design choice. You lie back down again. Breathe. Try to focus on something else. But now your mind is racing calculations. Owed grain, debts you're owed but will never collect, rumors that the new tax official is stricter than the last one, and taller, and possibly breathes fire. You groan. Your wife says, "Try humming." You do. Quietly. A lullaby your mother used to hum when the family ox threw a tantrum in the night. It helps. A little. You think about tomorrow, and then you think about nothing. Finally, sleep begins to win. The bugs retreat, the wind softens, and in that perfect, almost silent stillness, your son mumbles one last time. Do you think the tax collector will want a goat? You whisper, only if he has a death wish. And then everything goes quiet. The moonlight fades, replaced slowly by the dull blue haze of early dawn, the kind of light that says, "You've barely slept. And yet, here we go again." You stir on your mat, shifting to find a position that doesn't make your hip feel like it's made of terracotta. No luck. Every bone has become its own independent entity, each with complaints. You roll over. Marcus is snoring softly, hugging one of his sandals again like it's a security blanket. Your wife is already up, quiet and efficient, folding the same tunic she's folded every morning for the past 20 years. You sit up. Your head feels like it's packed with wool. Your body says no in 6 different dialects. But the day in all its questionable glory has begun. Outside, the animals are awake. A rooster announces his presence, probably Brutus again with all the subtlety of a battle horn. Bella bleats once, possibly to remind you that she is still, in fact, alive and will be demanding things shortly. You stand, stretch, and are immediately betrayed by your lower back. It lets out a sound that can only be described as ancient. "Careful," your wife mutters. "I think I just invented a new hinge." You reply. You throw on your tunic, splash cold water on your face from the basin, and chew a piece of dried mint. Breakfast today will be late if it happens at all. It's tax day, and that means priority number 1 is survival. You grab your ledger tablet, tuck a small sack of dried beans under your arm, your humble offering, and tighten your belt with ceremonial seriousness. Marcus stirs from his nest. "Where are you going to meet our financial destiny?" He yawns. "Can I come?" "No." He blinks. "Because you love me." "Yes." Out the door you go, sandals flapping softly against the dirt as you make your way down the road. You pass Lucius's house. He's out front in a too-clean tunic, practicing his surprised and impoverished face. You nod at each other. Silent solidarity. Near the town gate, the tax collector is set up beneath a canvas awning, seated behind a table that looks more like a throne than a desk. He's young, too well-groomed, and carries a stylus like a dagger. Behind him stands a scribe, expression blank, and two guards who are definitely only here for the drama. You approach, head bowed just enough to say I respect your authority, but not so much that it says I have anything to give. He eyes you. Name you give it. Land plot. You give it. He taps the stylus against the tablet. You are 1 jar of olive oil behind. You blink. That can't be right. I paid that last month. Did you record it? You wince. No, I gave it to the previous collector. Who? The one with the limb. He taps again. Dead. You sigh. I have beans. You offer, holding up the sack like it's sacred treasure. He sniffs. Literally. Then nods once. Acceptable. For now. You hand them over. Your dignity remains mostly intact. Lucius steps forward. The collector squints at his scrolls and says, You again. Lucius just smiles. I have figs. Figs are not currency. They were last year. That was a bribe. Still nutritious. You walk away before you get caught in whatever argument that will become. Back home, the world feels calmer. Not because anything is easier, just because the worst part of your month is now behind you. You enter the house to find Marcus balancing a chicken on his head. You freeze. Why I'm training it. For defense, you blink. Let me know how that goes. Your wife brings out a bowl of something resembling porridge. It's been spiced with a single clove. 1. A treasure? You eat gratefully. Warm food? A settled debt. A goat not currently on the roof, this counts as a win. After breakfast, the day settles into that late morning rhythm, you sharpening tools. Your wife patching cloth. Marcus trying to teach a chicken how to peck on command. You work quietly, hands moving without needing your thoughts. Your mind drifts. You think about your father, who used to say, farming is just organized waiting. You wonder if he ever imagined you'd end up here, whispering to beanstalks and negotiating with goats. You look out across your field. The olive saplings, once drooping, now stand a little straighter. Maybe they got the memo. Maybe they just needed one good night. You walk the rows, checking each plant, brushing away a few worms and patting the soil like it's a sleeping child. There's still a lot to do. Always, but for now, the field is calm. Back at the house, Marcus calls out. She did it. She pecked the pebble. You nod. Congratulations. We'll put her on security duty. Bella bleats from the pen, chewing on a sandal that may or may not be yours. The afternoon stretches ahead. You could start mending the plow, or repairing the gate hinge you stole to fix the cart, or checking the thatch on the roof where a storm blew through last week. Or you could sit. Just for a moment. You do. The stool creaks. Your knees creak louder. Your wife sits next to you, holding the same jar of pickled cucumbers that no one will ever eat. We could gift it to the gods, she says. Even the gods have limits. You reply? You both smile, watching Marcus run in circles with the chicken like it's part of some elaborate ritual. Then she leans in and says, softly, You've done well today. You turn to her. You mean I didn't die? She nods. That counts. You exhale. A long, deep breath that seems to shake a week's worth of dust out of your lungs. It's not heroic. It's not glorious, but it's real. And it's yours. The sun has almost slipped below the hills now, draping the world in that soft golden glow that makes everything look better than it is. Like the gods have applied a lazy coat of flattery before bed. You sit by the door, a bundle of kindling beside you, watching the shadows stretch across the field. The chickens are quietly pecking at the last light. Bella is snoring, loudly, on her side, tongue out. The day, as they say, is done. Marcus sits cross-legged nearby, fiddling with an old broken stylus he's decided to turn into a flute. He blows into it. It makes a sound like a dying bee. You wince, please, you whisper. Don't start a band. I already named it, he says proudly. Goat Rebellion. You close your eyes and nod slowly. Of course you did. Inside, your wife sets the table with whatever counts as a Roman supper during late harvest. Bread questionable, a pot of onion broth thin, but hot, and a piece of goat cheese so aged it might demand voting rights. The three of you sit close together, knees touching under the table, the fire crackling at your backs. It's simple, quiet, the kind of meal that isn't meant to be remembered, but somehow will be. Marcus speaks with his mouth full. I had a dream last night that we had a bathhouse. Your wife raises an eyebrow. Public or private? Private. You whistle low. Someone's dreaming above their station. He shrugs. In the dream, we also had a goose chariot. Well, now it's just unrealistic. After supper, you step outside again. The air is cooler now. Crisp. The kind of cool that nips at your skin but feels clean. Honest. Lucius wanders by, humming some out-of-tune song he probably learned from a tavern bard. He waves a loaf of bread like a torch. Want to trade for a cucumber, you ask. He scowls. Still, she's not going anywhere. He shakes his head and disappears down the path. You chuckle to yourself. Inside, your wife begins putting things away, one ceramic bowl at a time. Marcus has fallen asleep sitting up, head against the wall, chicken feather still in his hair. You carry him gently to his mat and cover him with the thinnest blanket you have that doesn't smell like goat. Then you lie down yourself. The ceiling looms above you, dark and familiar. You count the same cracks you've counted every night for the past decade. You hear the same creaks, the same wind brushing past the thatch roof, the same distant chorus of frogs and crickets that sing you into unconsciousness like clockwork. But not tonight. Tonight, your thoughts keep chattering. The plow still needs fixing. The taxes are done, but winter's coming. The grain stores are low. The olives aren't ripe enough, and someone, probably Gaius, keeps stealing your firewood pile stick by stick. Your eyes close, then open, then close again. And just as you're about to give up on sleep entirely, tap, tap, rain. You hear it. Tiny drops. Barely there. But real, you sit up, blink at the roof beams. Tap, 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 then more. Not a storm. Not a downpour, just a soft, reluctant drizzle. Like the gods finally remembered they owe you a favor. Or a nap. You step outside into the dark. The dust is already beginning to melt. The air smells like wet leaves, old bark, and promise. You turn your palms upward, catch a few drops, and whisper, "Took you long enough." Bella bleats in protest from her pen, clearly unhappy about the drizzle. Marcus stirs and rolls over. Your wife just mumbles, "Tell the gods thanks and come to bed." You return inside, lie down one last time, And finally let your thoughts dissolve. Not into sleep just yet, but something quieter, something softer, a mind empty of chores, a belly just full enough, a house that still stands, a family that's still loud, and a goat that's currently not on the roof. You smile to yourself in the dark. You've survived another day in Rome. Tomorrow will come with its own madness, its own broken wheels, strange rumors, aggressive poultry, and gods who don't answer mail. But for now, you rest, you breathe, and eventually, you drift. And now, friend. As the night fully sets and the last embers of the fire fade to glowing hush, you let your limbs sink deeper into the mat, into the quiet, into the stillness. The world outside has shrunk to a gentle mist. The fields are dark. The stars no longer look down in judgment, but in kindness. The tools are resting. The cart is quiet. Even Bella is snoring softly now. You feel the weight of the day slowly melt from your shoulders. All those tiny burdens, each stone, each scratch, each sigh they soften. Stretch. Drift. The itch in your foot quiets. The knot behind your eye uncoils. The air is cooler now. Cleaner. You wrap the blanket just a little tighter around your chest, feeling the texture of the fabric, the scratch of straw beneath, the faint warmth in your breath as it rises and falls. There's no need to move, no need to plan, no need to think. Everything that needed doing today is done, and everything tomorrow can wait. The rain will pass. The plants will wake. The sun will rise again and you'll rise with it. Not fast, not early, but with purpose and patience. So for now, let go. Let the darkness cradle you. Let the sounds become muffled, distant, familiar, the way a mother's heartbeat once was. The way a slow wind feels across the back of your neck. The way sleep comes not like a thief, but like an old friend who knows the way home. From wherever you are, whatever hour you're hearing this. Good night, Canada. Sleep well.